Hello, hello, hello. Today is the February the 10th, 2025. It's been 2 weeks since we heard from Norm Winski. That's 2 weeks too long. Norm, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I was last on your show, I believe, on January 27th, just ahead of several important cycle points. And here we go. I'm going to review those. The night of the 28th, we'll be looking at the next morning's opening. We had an important cycle. There's something called the moon's north node. A node is a point of intersection. So as the moon goes around the earth, it crosses the ecliptic. That's the path of the planets around the sun. And that point of intersection moves backwards through the zodiac in an 18.6-year cycle. And it's really interesting. The math on that, it's not a physical body. You can't shoot a laser at it. So it's more of an approximation than within a few days. You can't be as precise as with the planets. But the interesting thing mathematically is 18.6 years, and then we divide it into 12 parts like the zodiac, and that comes out from the moon's north node, go through a sign, takes 18.6 months. And then to move 1 degree is 18.6 days. So that's what we call a fractal when you have the same number or the same pattern repeating at different levels of order. And I'll be talking about fractals here in just a little bit. Okay, so we have the moon's north node changing signs. There's often an important change of trend, shift in the economy and the markets when that occurs. So for that, we're going to be looking at coffee, corn, gold, silver, sugar, wheat. And then that same night, if speaking of the moon, we have the new moon in Aquarius. And anytime we have a new moon, full moon, we round up the usual suspects: financial grains, precious metals, soybeans, oil. And because it was in the sign of Aquarius, we're running a special on copper. Then the next night, the 29th, that's the opening of the 30th, we have Uranus in Taurus turning direct. That's the opposite of a retrograde, the opposite point. And we're going to be looking at Taurus the bull, So we'll be looking at cattle, and Uranus is copper, and cotton is Taurus. So, and anytime we have Mercury, and that was over the weekend of the 31st, we look at the grains: corn, soybeans, wheat. And then we also included Monday night, the 3rd, Jupiter in Gemini was turning direct for stock market. And also we had another point for that night with Pluto to the U.S. natal chart. That has to do with when the country was founded on July the 4th of 1776. So here's our first chart. Here's corn. Corn was a little difficult, as you can see there. If I was loosey-goosey, I might have counted that. But that's a lot of drawdown, and it took you like 3 or 4 days to even get your money back. So we had 2 points there. That's a -2. 2 red arrows is a -2. But the good news is we did have one good one here with the Mercury point, Mercury perigee. Mercury was his closest point to the Earth, and that was a very nice low there in corn. And it popped up for, 72 up to 97. That's about 25 cents, I guess. And that's about $1,250. Here's a sample of something going sideways. We don't do sideways, so we put a yellow box there for a pass. And beans also pulled back. Remember I said that Mercury points are the grains, and both the corn and the beans reacted nicely there for a low over the 31st weekend, in the Monday the 3rd for a low there, and had a nice pop-up. And by the way, that was, how much money was that? That was 25 up to, wow, that was a big one. That was about 60, 65 cents. That was about $3,000. So, here's wheat. Also had a problem with the moon point there, but then it pulled back into our Mercury point for a very nice low and a big run on the wheat to 5.55 up to 5.90. That's about 40, 45 cents. And so that's $50 a penny. So what is that? About $2,500 or so. Here's cattle on our Uranus turning direct in Taurus, the bull. And you notice the cattle having a big run up until it hit Uranus turning direct in Taurus, the bull. And if you sold there, well, actually that's our entry point there, window there, you did pretty nicely because that's every penny there in cattle is worth $400, and it dropped. If you got in on the opening there about 207, it dropped to about even 200. So that's 7 times 4 is $2,800 in about a week's time. Here's cotton did not work. That's a minus there one there on that one. Here and coffee. I don't know if you know it or not. Coffee is, and there's two markets that are kind of in the rocket parabolic mode. That's coffee and gold. And these charts were done over this past weekend, and so don't have Monday in here. This market has gone a lot higher than that on Monday, and so did gold. But anyway, that's a miss there. Here's sugar. It made a nice little short-term top there, a little pullback there. Had a chance to make a little bit of money there on the sugar, and the same thing on the crude oil, a little top there. On our moon, that's the moon, and dropped about $1.50. That's $1,500 on crude oil. Copper was real friendly, had a nice pullback low here, and then every penny in copper is $250, and I think it rallied about 10 cents. That's $2,500, and then pulled back about, let's see, 35 down to 20. Oh, pulled back even more. That was 25 down at about 25 cents. I'm sorry, about 15 cents. That's 10 cents. That's about 15 cents. So that would be about 70. Was it 37.50? I think. There you go. Here's silver. We had 2 points there for silver, and neither one worked. So that's a -2. Here's gold. That's also followed the same pattern. And S&P, we did a little bit better. Had 2 good points here for a pullback. That was about 50, 60 handles there. And then it pulled back into this Mercury, that double whammy there we had over the 31st weekend. And that was good for that was a big low there and a big rally. But unfortunately, we had the 2 points there for the night of the 3rd into the opening of the 4th. And those are 2 misses. So we hit 3 out of 5 actual signals. That was a pass. Here's bonds. Did pretty well. We had a little nice short-term top there. And you had a chance to make, I think, about $1. That's $1,000. And then here's a really nice one here on our U.S. point there. Made a low there and then rallied up to, that's about 114. That's $2 there, or $2,000. And here's your U.S. dollar there. Made a little short-term top there. And really the same point as the bonds there, but mirror image made a nice top there. And a nice, I think it dropped about about almost 2 handles there, almost $2,000. Here's your current couple currencies. British pound made a little short-term low there, popped up. Euro did the same. Here's a Japanese yen, a nice pullback low there. And here's our score. So if you add up the green arrows and the red arrows, it's 17 winners, 11 misses out of 28 for 60.71%. Obviously not one, if you've been watching me over the many months and years, obviously not one of my better ones. It's on the low end of my range. But every trading system, no trading system, it goes without some sort of a bad period every now and then anyway. All right, now I'm going to talk about some fractally things there. Fractals are something from theoretical physics. It says that when you have a repeating pattern at different levels of order, like a pine tree is a very good example. The limbs of the pine tree look like miniature pine trees, and the little twigs look like miniature branches. So it's the same pattern repeating at different levels of order, and we've discovered that in the markets. And there's something you might be familiar with. You just didn't know it was a fractal thing. It's called the January barometer. You may not know the name, but if you've been in the stock market for any period of time, you probably heard the old expression, as January goes, so goes the year, which is a simple concept that if January is an up month, you'll probably get an up year. January is a down month, you'll probably get a down year. And that works about 75% of the time. I just saw a study that goes back to, I think, 1938. They came up with 74 point something percent. It was close to 75%. I saw another study from 1950. They said 75%. So it's pretty consistent. And so now let's talk about fractals. I expanded that model. Well, actually, when I found that model back in about 1980, I did the test, I did that, and I liked what I saw. And then I got the idea, well, maybe it could do more than just forecast where we end up at the end of the year. Maybe it could also forecast what happens during the year. And I tried that out, and that worked out pretty well. And that's a fractal model. And so I've been doing this now for many years for quite a few markets, and I've expanded now to 28 markets, and including, of course, I know most of you are stock market people, so I've included the Dow Jones, S&P 500, and the Nasdaq, plus most of your major commodities. And you can get this. I just did this over the past weekend. I now have the 2025 fractal futures forecast, all based on the January price action for the rest of 2025. And the first 5 people who contact me and mention Jeff's name get half off. Can get half off, only $120 for the rest of 2025. And if that's over your budget, I'll give you the free 2024 Fractal Futures results and a free class that goes. I'll give you the free class if you sign up for the 2025 or the 2024 if you like. And so contact me right away. The first 5 people get that deal. Okay, here's some examples of the fractals. Here's the blue bars were done back in February of 2024. You see that? Caught that high there, caught that very nice high there, and so forth on the crude oil. Here's your NASDAQ. You see that? That's pretty good. And so that's how it works. Here's what's coming up in the future. This is February the 10th, and the night of the 11th, we'll have a full moon in the sign of Leo. So that carries you over into the opening on Wednesday the 12th. And we'll be looking at financials, grains, precious metals, oil. And because it's in the sign of Leo, I'm emphasizing corn and gold. And gold is particularly interesting today. It needs to keep going up into the full moon for this to be a top. If that were to occur, that would be a really possibly a good setup for a top there. If the gold is getting really extreme now, and a big move up today, it's getting parabolic. And so keep your eye on that. If it pulls back into the full moon, it may be just a pullback low, and then it may be turning around and going higher. The night of the 13th, we have Pluto to the U.S. chart, stocks, T-bonds, U.S. dollar. The 14th, night of the 14th, that'll be a weekend. Uranus to the U.S. chart, stocks, T-bonds, U.S. dollar. And here's another interesting thing for gold. The night of the 19th, that'll be Wednesday night. Venus will be perihelion. That's from the Greek for Helios, the sun in Greek, and para means close. So now the opposite point was on October the 30th. Go back and look at your charts at gold on October 30th. That was a very big high in gold there, right to the day. I was on the show here and forecasted that, and gold topped, I think, at 28.20 and dropped over $200 over the next several weeks. And so that was a very nice point there. And this is the opposite point now, perihelion. And of course, we got cattle, copper, corn, cotton, gold, sugar, and wheat. Then the night of the 21st, the moon's north node, I mentioned before, is going to line up with Neptune, which in the sign of Pisces. Neptune is said to be ruling in the ruling body for Pisces. So this is like a triple whammy. You have the north node in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces, and that's oil, and also silver. So we're emphasizing oil there for the night of the 21st into the opening of the 22nd. And then also that same night, Mars will in Cancer will turn direct. You might know retrograde. That's the opposite. A retrograde is direct, and that's important for silver. Okay, so I've been doing this for almost 50 years now. I need to update this pretty soon because as of May, it will be my 50th anniversary when I landed on the Chicago Board Options Exchange there in May of 1975. And I later also traded on the Chicago Board of Trade. And what I was always doing was trying to learn more and more and more. Never can learn enough. And so I studied all these different disciplines, and hopefully I can help you with those. And I made an emphasis, because I wasn't a great student in school, to make things easy to understand. So I bring everything down to a grade school level. Nothing I do is over a 5th grade level. And you can contact me. I'll be happy to talk to you and explain anything you'd like. It might look complicated, but like I said, I keep everything really simple. I'm in beautiful Naples, Florida, and you can call me at 239-594-3939. That's 239-594-3939. Or if you'd like to email me, that's nwinski@yahoo.com. Or you can also call me on Skype at the same address. Looking forward to helping some of the folks, Jeff. Thank you very much for having me on. Everybody have a great week ahead.
Norm, that's terrific as always. The one thing I'm going to point out is there were a number of places where you had 2 red arrows and you counted as 2 misses. If you counted 2 arrows in the same place as one trade, not 2, you'd be closer to your 70%. And I hope the people who watch this realize that. Norm, we'll see you back in a couple of weeks.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jeff.
Bye.